Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Tuesday. It's your boys, Pove, Dales. We got Maddie joining us in a few minutes. He's running a little behind. The season is finally upon us. Opening night is tonight. Chicago and Florida in the books. Rangers, Penguins going right now. I know. Exciting, right? We got plenty of Flyers to talk about, even though they are not playing tonight and they're not playing until Thursday. We talk about the final rosters. We're going to talk about line combinations. We got a lot to preview as far as the game on Thursday, especially after seeing the Florida Panthers playing tonight. We're going to get into all that, so much more. So make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe. It's time to talk the conversation. Let's go talk some puck.
Hey, this is Flyers Talk A2D, and we're powered by the doc. That is Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, with 2 locations in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Check out our doc. Make them yours. Visit them at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Matt Sinsuti will be joining us shortly, but for now, we got a strong PK tandem with Brian Daly and yours truly, Rob Povia. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe for notifications to all your favorite shows here on A2D Radio. Now, as Brian alluded to, we're previewing opening night, but first, we have the troops ready for the season with the final roster announced. We want your opinion on our face-off poll, which is the Flyers 2025-2026 roster will find ways to win at least 5 more games than last season. Agree or disagree? We'll be reading your comments all throughout the podcast. And in case you're listening to us after we go live on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m., drop those comments. We love engaging in the conversation post-show all week until we join you again the following Tuesday. So, Brian, I'm going to turn it right over to you in regard to this conversation. Is 5 games the over-under on the win-loss record for the Flyers?
Honestly, I don't know. Just a random number. Thought, why not pick a nice even though it's an odd number, but a nice even round number. Yeah, I'm going to agree with the poll. I think they are going to figure out some ways to kind of figure out how to win 5 more games this year. I know there's a lot of question marks regarding the goaltending tandem. There's a lot of question marks regarding the defense and how things are kind of shaping up for them right now with some of the moves that they made, sending guys down. But I do think this team is going to find some ways. I mean, they got a lot of talent on the offense now. They have hopefully a very healthy Sean Couturier back, so you can hopefully get some really good defensive play out of him, get some big face-off wins in their zone when they need to get the puck out, and some other things like that. You bring in Christian Dvorak for that same reason. You keep that very important third line together from last year with Typho and Brink and Cates. So you're going to obviously you're going to get some good production out of them, whether they're on the scoreboard or not. I think they do find some ways to win because I think you finally have a coaching staff behind the bench that actually understands a little bit more of the fundamentals of the game of hockey than you did last year. So, and the other thing too is they didn't go out and make any fancy moves this year, and they're probably not going to go out and make any fancy moves now that Kaprizov is off the market, and as well as Connor McDavid, which we could talk about a little bit later on in the show. But I think they made some really good low-key moves. I think Dan Vladar kind of hopefully will solidify a little bit of the goaltending tandem. I don't think they're going to be spectacular, but hopefully he can bring some stability there so he can steal a few games here and there. I really like the Christian Dvorak signing. If he plays well enough, you can move him on from him at the trade deadline, get something valuable back, whether it's a first-round pick or a second-round pick or even a young player that is borderline ready but maybe needs a year or two. So I think they'll find ways to steal a couple games here this year, and I do think they wind up winning about 5 more games than they did last year. A lot of people are down on this team. I'm not down on them, but I also don't think they're going to go out and set the world on fire. but I do think they find ways to win at least 5 more games than they did last year.
Well, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. You make a lot of great points. And one of them, chief and paramount there, is the coaching staff change. But I mean, how I felt about this poll is that I agree, but I agree on a little different angle, right? The young pups are a year older and they're a year wiser coming from the Torts era into the Tocchet era, but especially Mitchkoff and Forrester, who with the latter, I'm so happy for him to be healthy and on this opening roster. We weren't sure about that earlier. And to your point, Brian, that line will stick together at least for opening night. The team as a whole, though, you just see them more amped than last year, and that's where the coaching staff comes in. Thanks to Rick Tocchet, as we spoke about last week. It'll be vital to get better play on the blue line and in the net. That's going to be what's key. But I feel this will be the greatest area of improvement by the season's end. Plus, being more defensively responsible 5-on-5 with Tocchet's system is bound to improve the win-loss record. And then you throw in the Trevor Zegras factor, right? And if you get the upside of that kid coming to a new situation and a fresh start, then maybe we're talking over 5 games. But I like the 5 games. I think that's exactly where it's going to belong. Will it be in contention for a second wild card? That remains to be seen. But we got the fam chiming in. LJ Lava, goaltending and defense might be worse in NHL. And there wasn't a lot of impressed faces in terms of the bottom 6 the bottom 2 are, pairing on this defensive line. But Adam Ginning has been a surprise. He was not earmarked for this roster, and he could be earmarked for opening night. So until you get a healthy Risto back into the fold, that is an area of concern, and you certainly have some validity there. Right, Brian?
Yeah, so I heard an interesting stat the other day. Talking to some guys at work, and one of the stats that I heard was there have been like over. I'm going to try and paraphrase. I'm going to paraphrase it as best as I can and try and get the stat right. Over the last 100 and some odd starters for the Flyers, this stat goes back to I think 2004, or it starts at 2000. It's in that time frame. But of the 100 and I think 60 some odd Flyers starting goaltenders, the 2 guys that the Flyers have starting this year are at the bottom of the save percentage of all 100 and some odd starting goaltenders last year. So I'm going to do my best to try and see if I can find that stat again. But I felt that was kind of interesting heading into this year, was that statistically speaking, Dan Vladar and Sam Ersson might be the 2 statistically worst goalies that the Flyers have or could have starting in net for them this year. So just to kind of put a little bit more validity behind LJ's comment. I don't think they're going to be the worst, though. I definitely think there's worse tandems out there, and I definitely think there's worse defensive course out there. But I'd be surprised if they were over top 10. But I do think they'll be in a good spot.
I mean, it's going to be a rough beginning, and I agree with that, especially now you're minus Cam York for this opening roster, which was big news, right? Him looking to come in and make a big impression in year 1 post-Torts, coming in after a strong camp, and now he's dealing with a lower body injury, described as day-to-day, but still at this point being earmarked for injured reserve heading into the opening. So, I mean, this isn't the start that you wanted to get on defense, but maybe – there was a surprise with Emil Andre being dismissed a little bit earlier in camp than I thought. This could offer him opportunity, but there's other, like I said, Adam Ginning, right? Noah Juleson, who didn't impress, but there's other guys that could fill that role while you could still get an Emil Andre getting tops, pairing or minutes on defense and not lower pairing minutes. So there's a lot of choices, and at this point, like it looks like they'll go with veteranship at first, but it'll ultimately tie into the rookies coming and giving them that depth as well as on the forward side, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about just the possibilities of the offense here. We've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about how there's some excitement between the Zegers and Mitchkov connection already. And according to the Daily Face-Off here, it seems like for Thursday, there's going to be no Mitchkov Zegers line, unfortunately. Looks like Zegers is going to center the second line with Owen Tippett and Travis Konechny. So there's still a lot of excitement to be there. The one thing that I would be concerned about is going to be the first line right now. You have Mitchkov on the line with Couturier and Dvorak, which I think is a little out there, but I know that's something we had discussed this offseason of a realistic possibility for this for the way it's going to kind of work out. So with me and Dvorak, I would have put Dvorak on a third line, but I mean, the way that things are shaping up with this offense, there's a lot of goals to be had. And I think the way that Tocchet had put these lines together, I think he spread out a lot of offense. I think there's outside of the fourth line, you have the third line from last year with Typho, Cates, and Brink. Then you have Tippett, Zegers, and Konechny on two, Dvorak, Couturier, and Mitchkov on the first line. I think they did a good job of spreading out the offense. I think we're going to get a ton of goals here. I think it's going to be an exciting team to watch. Right. And the first line is kind of, like I said, it's questionable. It's very defensive heavy, in my opinion. But Sean Couturier still has that playmaking ability that he can get the puck where he needs to go to allow Mitchkov to perform the magic that he usually does.
Yeah. And there's a lot of possibilities beyond this, too, because when you look at the depth of this roster and who you can sub in, we talked about in the opening, right? Jetlichenko did make this team, but what exactly will his role be? And will he be with the Flyers for the full season? Danny Briere regarding Lichenko came out on Monday and said nothing's set in stone. He has to keep earning it. He has to keep playing well. He's not the only one. It applies with everyone. I know we make a big deal of the opening roster, but that doesn't mean that you're on the team forever. Every day you've got to keep earning your ice time and your spot on the team. And this is per Jason McNeil, Broad Street Hockey, and continuing that conversation, Brian, right? Where we could see a similar, opportunity for Jet to sub in for a Dvorak, to sub in for an Abels, to give them a healthy scratch, to come in to maybe inject some more offense on that top line, where you're saying it's a little more defensive heavy, and see the combination with Jet and Mitchkov, right? Or even giving Jet an opportunity to serve in a fourth line capacity, but ultimately that's not where they want to keep this kid. Sending him back to the OHL for a squad that's going to be substandard, right? That also isn't a great opportunity either. So I'm rooting for the kid to make a name for himself and stick on the roster. And then you can continually do round robins, as I talked about weeks ago, Brian, and people were like, oh, you're going to sign Dvorak and then healthy scratch him. It keeps everybody fresh. And let's face facts, Brian. Guys get injured, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, it's a good problem to have. And eventually that shrinks down to where maybe a Jet Lichenko gets much more playing time on this level, and is able to stick around.
Yeah, and it's like you said, the first thing that I think he needs to do is earn his playing time. Right now, whether you agree with this or not, what has he earned right now? This regime, Keith Jones, Danny Briere, they're all about earning your time. Jet did a good job last year in his little trial. Great year in the OHL, and then he had some really good plays and these really good games for the Phantoms last year in the playoff run. But the key here is he hasn't earned anything in the NHL yet. So if you look at the roster and how it's built, and we'll get into the roster here in a second, Robbie, these guys have all earned their spot. None of these guys were giving this opportunity. They all have earned it. whether was with the Flyers or whether it was with in Dvorak's case with Montreal last year or Trevor Zegras' situation with Anaheim last year. So, I'm all for Jet finding ways, and I think you're right. I think they're going to round robin him and Nikita Grabankin as well. They're going to rotate those guys in and out of the lineup to obviously give them some time. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think early on here, you want to try and keep guys as fresh as possible and try and really get themselves off to, quite frankly, the best start that they possibly can. Because the goal for this team this year, they're borderline playoffs. It has to be at this point.
Right. Agreed. Ryan Swoop, what's up, man? Joseph, just because free agents are available doesn't make them a fit. Don't feel forced to sign or go after guys because they're the ones available. If they're not a fit, too often that happens. And I agree, because you got a nice nucleus forming here. I think ultimately you target the top free agents when they become available. And if, they're not available in this market, then you wait till the next market, right? And then you strengthen your defense with the Quinn Hughes instead. And you allow some of these young forwards to, eventually you're going to have room for Denver Barkey, right? So, and I think that's always a good problem to have as several of the other guys that we just drafted, make their way through the pipeline. So, Priz chiming in, first line feels like a play defensively responsible, jump passing lanes, and get Mitchkov cheating, I believe is where he was going with that. Yep. And I absolutely agree. But then to your point, Brian, you just mentioned it, right? You could put a Grabankin on that line who they had really great chemistry in camp, right? And it allows, you don't want too many choices. You want to go with a set number of guys, but it still allows a coach to do some coaching. Ryan Swoop, let him start the season in the minors first so he can get the playing time right away. If he's referring to Jet, he can. Yeah, I mean, he could go back to the Storm, right? But their season isn't projected to be very pretty. So when you're playing with around lesser talent, that kind of depreciates you. This is why Porter Martone opted to go to the NCAA and play with older kids, higher talent level, right? It's a shame that we couldn't get the rule for allowing Jet to, jump in the AHL this year. But what if he, due to injury or due to playing opportunity, gets enough playing time to qualify for the AHL this season? You know what I mean? And then you can get him top line minutes and consistent minutes if he's not getting them at this level. I think that is possible, is it not?
I think this year, with the way that things are working out now, I think they can, because they changed the rules for the AHL. I don't remember if Jet falls into that this year because of where his birthday is. I think his birthday's in December, or I think that's when the new rule sets in. I think it's December, and I think it's like just before his birthday, and I think his birthday is like right at the cutoff.
Well, I mean, what if he's here to game 45, game 50, right? And if he's struggling at that point, right? I mean, if he's here that long, actually, he's not struggling. Let me take that back.
No. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, ultimately, I think keeping him involved, at least having him make the team 2 years in a row, speaks volumes. And now it's for Jet to take the torch and run with it. Right now, he can stamp his foot just like MM did last year and say, boys, I'm here to stay.
Yeah.
Let's effing go.
Yeah.
Priz, I'm gonna call Priz, I'm gonna call the first line, the Mitchkov parents line. Protect Mitchkov defensively and feed him. Yeah, I like that.
It's better than what Anaheim has their third line called. They're calling their third line the pension line. It's Chris Kreider, Frank Vetrano, and Ryan Strome.
Geriatricville.
Yeah, pretty much. Jeez. Does not make me feel good. But as far as Jet goes, I think that I'm fine with him being up. I'm fine with him sitting a game or two. Because, like I said, he's going to have to earn it. They're going to rotate guys. That fourth line isn't going to be the fourth line all year. And they're obviously going to rotate guys in and out. So any opportunity that Jet can get to play, is an opportunity for him to steal minutes from somebody else. So I like the fourth line. I think that's a rough and tough fourth line, and I think Ricardo Abels adds to that as well. I think that's a very old school fourth line.
Yeah, it is.
Very physical. But if they can get an opportunity to, if Jet can get an opportunity to steal some minutes from, to say, Abels, he sits a couple games, that moves Dvorak down, and they shuffle the lines up a little bit more so they can work Jet into the lineup. I'm not super worried about Jet, 19 years old. My expectations for him are not great, but that's, again, because he's 19 years old. So I'm not expecting, if he gets 30 to 40 points this year, I'm going to be ecstatic. So, you know, he just has to stay within himself, and he has to take advantage of every opportunity that Tockett's going to give him.
Yeah, that's bottom line. It's absolutely the bottom line. But I'm very happy for Abels as well. He's a good story making this, not a hardworking player, really impressed in camp. So definitely good to see. You know, we talk about maybe we can pop up the roster at this point, or maybe we'll go through a few more comments and then go to the specific rundown of the rosters. Heather Edwards, lovely to have you as always. Currently watching the Rangers and Pens, hoping somehow both teams lose. Laugh my ass off. Exactly my thoughts. Agreed.
Yeah.
We all agree to agree.
I gotta say though, those Centennial jerseys that the Rangers have are absolute fire.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that about many jerseys this year. The Edmonton Oilers alternate jersey is absolute fire. All the Centennial jerseys are fire. And that's pretty much about it. I mean, all the other ones kind of leave a lot to be desired, especially Carolina's road jersey, but that Ranger Centennial jersey is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd be eligible, just because again, it's where his birthday kind of lines up with where the new rule kind of sets into play, which I think is like December 20th or something like that. But and then here's one for Swoopy.
Hate the Pens more, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, but what if similar to like once the OHL season is over? Isn't that, or does that run up? Is that congruent with the AHL season?
It ends a little bit sooner.
Right.
I think there's like an extra. It ends like a month before the AHL, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
If Jet winds up here for more than 10 games, he's up here for the year, so he can't be sent back down. I think the intent for Jet this year is to keep him here.
Right.
Regardless of how much playing time he gets. But like I said, this regime is all about these guys earning their spots. So I'm all for it.
Right. Danny said it himself earlier, right? That you have to earn, and that goes for everyone. So, I think that is that. What's up, Greg? Lovely to have you as well. Always, that is the intent. That is the intent. But if it's an opportunity to stick around, then he does, right? If not, just like last year, he gets sent down. Maybe he lasts a little bit longer than, what did he make it, 4 or 5 games?
Last year, I believe it was 8.
Yeah. Oh, was it 8? All right.
I believe so.
Yeah, so it's just short, like even if he has a similar run like that, but hopefully he does stick around. I agree. For sure.
And I will pull up that for you now.
Yeah. We get into this compliment of Flyers on Facebook. Of the 27 total players that are listed here, 13 have been drafted by the club, 9 were signed as free agents, 5 were acquired by the Flyers via trade. Just a little factoid there. But as we read through what we got here, making the forward lineup, Rodrigo Abels, Bobby Brink, Noah Cates, Sean Couturier, our captain, Nick Delorier, Christian Dvorak, Tyson Forrester, Nikita Grabenkin, Garnet Hathaway, Travis Konechny, Jet Lichenko, Matvey Michkov, Owen Tippett, and Trevor Zegras. There's some speed.
There's some speed, there's some silky mitts, and there's some personality in that locker room. And I'm here for every bit of it. I think the one thing that this that everybody could take away from this, at least the forwards here, that locker room is going to have a lot of fun. That locker room is going to have a lot of silly moments, and that locker room is going to know when to keep it light. And I think that's going to pay a lot of dividends for this team moving forward this year and taking the next step here in the rebuild. And I love that Gurbenkin made the team. He impressed me in the 2 games that I watched for the Flyers. Not only he does need to work a little defensively, he needs to work on that 2-way game. Greg, Greg, that's all I got for you today. But he needs to work on his responsibility in his 2-way play. But below the dots, that kid is going to be nothing but trouble. Big, physical, likes to sit in front of the net, knows what to do with the puck behind the goal line. I'm excited for this kid, and I hope once we start making some moves and start opening up some spots, I'm putting Gurbenkin in a third line spot almost immediately.
Absolutely. Now we'll move on to the defense. Aforementioned piecemeal defense with Jamie Drysdale, Dennis Gilbert, Adam Ginning, Noah Jolson, Rasmus Ristolainen, who will be starting the year on injured reserve, Travis Sanheim, Nick Seeler, Cam York, injured reserve to be determined, and Igor Zamula, who also had an opportunity and sort of screwed the pooch in training camp. So for any detractors of this team, this is likely be your culprit. Hopefully Cam York is back sooner than later. Travis Sanheim, those wide shoulders that we see in the picture, needs a shoulder load. And we need to see Jamie Drysdale show up on the power play score sheet, I think, Brian.
No, for sure. He needs to take that step. He needs to be the quarterback of the power play. That was his expectation with Anaheim. Never really came to fruition. That Southern California lifestyle is apparently really hard. Just as Trevor Zegras. The one thing that I would love to see is Sanheim kind of step. And we saw it a little bit in preseason. Sanheim stepping up, knowing the better moments to kind of sneak his way up. Maybe he can grab some power play time on the second unit and maybe get real sneaky on finding ways to score some goals there. But I mean, I'm not holding this defensive group too high right now because it's not fully healthy. Obviously, York with the lower body injury, Ristolainen with the tricep recovery. So once they kind of find their way back to the lineup and they kind of find their way back into the fold, I think we're going to see what this defense is really made of. But I think right now, if they can take 2 to 3 of the first 5, I'd be very happy with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, exactly. It's not exactly an easy schedule. I'd be thrilled with that, especially how they're coming into the season. Benny's Nation, as much as we want to see Jet produce offensively, I think the organization will make the determination if he stays up based on how responsible he is with the puck and defensively. Yeah, and that was looked at a lot during training camp. Benny, you're absolutely right. So you gotta play the game to all 200 feet, right? And you gotta be defensively responsible. Yeah, especially at center. Exactly. The real question is how we will replace Ellis.
I want to hear your thoughts on this because I was shocked, but the move makes sense. I was shocked when I saw Danny B make this move. What was your reaction?
For me, it was just trying to get money off the books, plain and simple.
Yeah,
I mean, do you accomplish that with this trade?
Absolutely. You free up, I think it was like 6.9 mil, and then you give all of that to San Jose, who needs as many dollars as they can get back to the cap floor.
Right. Exactly. And we take garbage that they're looking to get rid of to clean up their roster, right? But add some organizational depth as they build this thing. I like the saying that they're going into this brick by brick, right? Because it ties into like the bricks that were originally put there when it was the first Union Center, I think, and the Spectrum, back in the day and before that. So a lot of this is brick by brick, and as we move on from the defensemen, we'll get to the aforementioned two goalies that the Flyers will be going into the season with, and that's Sam Ersson and Dan Vladard. I haven't liked what I've seen with Sam in preseason. This has got me a little bit more worried than I was as sure, maybe even as soon as a week or two ago. But I think ultimately what this leaves up for is that, just like Danny B said, what's up, Maddie?
Yo.
How are you this evening?
All right. How are you, gentlemen?
Good. We're just running through the roster, and I'm not as confident as I was, Matt, in this goalie tandem, but I think ultimately, right, Sam is the type of goaltender that can rise to the occasion, and as he gets a healthier defense in front of him, that'll help, right? But if one or two of these men should falter, I think that really opens up the door for Coleslaw, for Bjarnson later on in the season. What's up? Good evening. Love to have you. So let's go to Matt. I want to get your response to tonight's poll question, right? So the Flyers finalized their roster, right? With this group of people, or will they find ways to win at least 5 more games than last season?
Hmm. I'm gonna say disagree. I know I sound pessimistic in that, but I feel like a lot's got to go the Flyers' way. And I feel like, as well, depending upon how they're playing late in the season, that's going to determine a lot. And this, of course, we have to think about injuries. We have to think about the ebbs and flows of the regular season, how the standings can fluctuate from one to the other. Honestly, I definitely think that it would be. I could see a lot not happening going that way. You know what I mean? I feel like it's still a really hard thing to achieve. Doesn't mean that it's not possible. I just don't think it will be.
You make good points, Matty. I mean, a lot of things do have to go their way, but I do like how they're playing in preseason, very competitive hockey, right? And appreciating Rick Tockett's defensive side. It's all about how they play 5-on-5. That'll determine a lot for the early season for the Flyers, and how they battle the Stanley Cup champs. How did they fare tonight against Chicago? I didn't see. I saw it was 2-2 there for a second.
It was close.
Yeah, so Chicago didn't look bad. They didn't look bad at all. Spencer Knight was a very busy boy, but he looked pretty fantastic in his first showing as the franchise goaltender for Chicago. I mean, they just, to me, early on, Maddie, tell me if you agree with this or not. For me, Chicago's got to shoot the puck more. I think they looked pretty solid defensively. Spencer Knight did everything that he could against that team. But Panthers got to shoot, or the Blackhawks they got to shoot more.
Yeah, I definitely think that was the case. They were getting really good opportunities. Just capitalizing on those opportunities is going to be key for them, as it is for any team. But it seems like the Panthers weren't as what's a good word for it? They weren't as, not controlling, but they weren't as assertive as they could have been. Like, there were moments where it felt like the Panthers were getting a little leaky every now and again, and the Blackhawks were taking advantage of it, but not fully. So piggybacking off of what you said, I would definitely think that if they were a little bit more aggressive, they may very well have pushed it possibly to overtime. Who knows what would happen then? But I definitely think that if that's their starting point, that's a good starting point for them.
No, I agree. I agree. The one thing else I would say too is with Frank Nazar and Connor Bedard going into another season together. Nazar going into, I believe, his sophomore year, third year for Bedard. They're showing some really good chemistry together. That last couple minutes, there was definitely some question marks on what they were trying to do, but when they were up with the goalie pulled, they had some really good opportunities. They gotta find. You just got to find a way to find the net.
Yeah, and it's early. It's night one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
so you're still figuring those things out as you're shaking off the rust from, a pretty short preseason docket, and they'll get even shorter as they move to 84 next season.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we see with the Panthers, not only tonight, but kind of segueing into Flyers battle, their opener on Thursday against these same Florida Panthers. They come into the season a little more injured than us, and more so on the forward line. They'll be without two of their key players to start the season. Alexander Barkov may not see the ice this season at all after having surgery a few weeks ago to repair the ACL and MCL in his right knee. And as for Matthew Tkachuk, he's expected to be out until December with a lower body injury. So what was once seen to be a pretty big gauntlet for the Flyers, seeing the Panthers 2 of the first 3, might be a blessing in disguise, fellas.
Yeah, Maddie?
Yeah. I definitely think that in terms of where things are going, um, I think the possibilities there for improved play, and I think also on top of it as well. I think as well for the Panthers, obviously they're going to have a rough season ahead of them. They're the defending champs for one thing, but they're trying to three-peat, which of course hasn't been done in a long time. Hasn't been done since the Islanders. So that's a really hard thing to do. And the last time we saw a team attempt this, it was Tampa, and they were not successful. So, it's going to be. I feel like the Panthers are going to have a little bit more up and down, just because like we've said before, it's a lot of hockey to play, in the span of 3 seasons. And as for the Blackhawks, young team with a lot to prove, obviously coming out tonight swinging and, almost nearly taking a couple away from the Panthers, or at least getting one off of them. It's not something to sniff at.
Right now, the line, I was checking the over-under. It's at 5.5 goals. Money line minus 200 on Florida Panthers. Disrespect. I do like that over-under, though. I think this is a lower scoring game. Florida being shorthanded offensively. Flyers figuring out, and I think they're going to be focused on playing, defensive, strong in front of their netminders, right? This is a game that I can easily see the Flyers winning, though, 3-2.
Yeah, and like I was saying last week, the Flyers tend to play the Panthers well, even at full strength. They're always competitive with them. They both play a relatively physical game. Obviously, missing Barkov and Tkachuk are going to be massive, but this is an opportunity for them to shell out and kind of put the NHL on notice and saying, "Hey, we're coming, we're up and coming. We're not quite there, but we're coming." And obviously, this tough matchup is going to be key on for me at least, taking advantage of the power play, because we know that Florida's going to take a lot of penalties. They do tend to get a little. I mean, if you've watched the last couple of preseason games against Tampa Bay, that kind of should tell you exactly what's this team is about. So if you can take advantage of that and get yourself on the power play and get the power play going early, I think they can make you do some damage to a team like Florida. And I think that's going to be a big key for this team moving forward this year is going to be how they do on the power play.
Joe's saying, why do we got to play a team that's already got a game under their belt for our opener? That's BS. Man, I mean, I don't really think it doesn't really matter. If the Panthers have played a game, I don't think that really truly defines what's going to happen. I just think at the end of the day, yeah, the Panthers, they're obviously going to come at the Flyers, but if the Flyers handle it just fine, since they're going to be in their building, if they just handle the first wave early, they should be okay. The key is just, survive the opening onslaught and you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Panthers are fast. Panthers are skilled. Panthers play physical. Flyers have speed. Flyers have some skill, and they can play physical. So really what it comes down to for me is whoever has an opening nod on Thursday night, whether it be Vladar or Erison, they got to come ready to go. They got to come out and not necessarily make a statement, but they can't play like they did in the preseason and expect to win this game. To this Panthers team, we said it all last postseason. We've been saying it the last few years. This team is deep. This team has a lot of firepower on all four lines. And the fact that they're still one of the favorites despite losing Barkov and Kachuk should tell you that.
Right. I mean, this will be interesting for the Flyers in terms of how they handle, the teams early. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a challenge for them moving early into the season. There's a lot of question marks still in terms of, okay, will this team be competitive down the stretch? Will this team be able to handle its injuries well? Will this team handle its goaltending situation well? There's a few questions to ask. And then obviously, everyone's going to want to know how the power play is going to work. And during the preseason, it looked good. So hopefully that transitions into the regular season. I think that that's going to be a huge thing, a huge factor as to whether the Flyers, as the poll says, getting those 5 more wins in the season. If you have a really solid power play, that might actually make all the difference. Because you got to make a team pay when they go to the box.
Yeah, and there's some real threats there. Some real, you look at some of the units that are formulating. Zegras with Konechny and Michkov, Tippett and Drysdale. I said before you jumped on, Maddie, that I think it's Jamie Drysdale is going to be a key in this opening if he can bring some goal scoring prowess on the power play, and that can carry a team, especially if you are playing defensively responsible 5-on-5 when you're not on the odd man advantage.
Right. I mean, I think that as well, too, depending upon how matchups go with the certain lineups that you have, of course, obviously who's getting thrown to the box and whatnot. I think that'll also help determine, what type of power play unit's going to go out there for that time period. And also as well, you're going to have those challenges of facing a good goalie. Obviously, they're going to face Bob. Bob's not going to be easy to score on. So, you'll have those challenges as well. But like we said before, like you were saying, Jamie Drysdale being a big part of it, Tippett having an opportunity to really, show a very strong season. Forster, who's been really determined to make a statement this year. And Cam York, obviously, he's putting a lot of, I don't want to say he wants to pressure himself. I think he's challenging himself to do a lot better this go around than he has in the past. So, and then obviously Coots will have a huge factor in that of just like, okay, Coots wants to prove that he is worthy of that C. If he has those opportunities on the power play, I'm sure he would love to show what he's capable of on the offensive side, not just the defensive side. So again, there are threats, like you were saying, Rob. This is a team that has some talent on it. And then obviously you got TK. And he can always be a factor anytime he chooses.
Yeah, and the thing to remember too, this team was ranked 30th in the power play last year. The only way, only place to go is up from here. So
Right.
it's not like the expectation for me is just be better than last year. Just right now, just be better than last year. You get into the top 20, I'm throwing a parade. I'm throwing my own parade. Because we had, with everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks, as far as the Phillies in the postseason, which we're still waiting for them to show up. The Eagles on Sunday, which they got in my opinion, they got a win stolen from them. Flyers need to give this fan base something good. The Flyers need to give this fan base something positive to cheer about. Not necessarily.
The Flyers are here to cure what ails you.
Exactly. And I'm not saying going 5-0 in the first 5 games, but
right.
Be competitive. Be in every shift. Oh, excuse me, that snuck up on me. Be competitive. Be in on every shift. This is an opportunity for the Flyers to kind of get a little bit more noticed in this town right now, especially with, like I said, where the Phillies are, and then with, the situation with the Birds. It's a good opportunity for them to get some notoriety in the city.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
No. I was going to read a comment. Go for it, though.
Oh, okay. I think that with the opportunity that the Flyers have, it's a chance for them to kind of, the new era of orange, as they say, it's an opportunity for them to really make it mean something. They brought it out a few years back when they had that really strong showing under Torts, and a couple of seasons later, it's been a bit of a rough go, but now they have the opportunity to kind of take back the reins a little bit, and push forward a little bit here. So hopefully they can. And with more skill this time around, and with a little bit more of the youth in there than they did those previous years. So there you go.
Right. And in this new era of orange, as they move brick by brick, now that's the saying now, brick by brick. But as we talked about before, but putting it together, right? It's a situation where this team, I think, has an opportunity. Where did we last see this? This is the point. I almost lost it and I found it. The last we saw this team, they were flying pretty high under Bradshaw.
Yeah.
Right. When the reins were taken off and they were able, and now you have Rick Taka coming in and they have a very positive, upbeat, fun-loving, speed, pass, scoring, type camp, right? There's every possibility to hit the ground running, but they do. As I said, we spoke about the positives of facing a Panthers team that's a little shorthanded right now. Joseph Horakowski chimes in with a negative. He goes, why do we got to play a team that's already got a game under their belt for our opener? That's BS. And I agree, Flyers coming in cold, right? Preseason hockey and the speed of regular season can be night and day. They try to mimic it, but they're also trying to stay healthy. So, it's part of the schedule makers giving us a foul hand here, but this squad can rise to the occasion. And Owen Tippett, let's not ignore him. We haven't really spoke his name much, right? But I think he's very key for this first 5-10 game stretch to opening the season. Heel Crow, what's up, my boys? Ready for some Flyers hockey? Absolutely. Go back to that other one. I wanted to give some love to Lava again, Brian. Having a below-average goaltender really stunts development of a rebuilding team. I don't see. I read that as the other boys were talking, and yeah, I get it. You want to get more of a winning culture, and you don't want to be hanging your head after games. But there's a lot of individual development still left to be done on this team, and that includes, bringing in Trevor Zegras, who really needs to find, what was once, really heralded elite, prospect level. So there could still be individual growth, right, as well as opportunity for goaltenders to rise to the occasion. Guys, how do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm with you 100%. I definitely think there's definitely going to be, if they can come out hot, that's going to definitely set a tone. And I think that whether it's Ersson on Thursday or Vladar on Thursday, they can ride that wave for sure. And I said at the beginning of the show, this is a team that has a good culture in the locker room. Guys who know how to have fun, guys who know how to keep it light. Z's been around for a few years now, so he's a vet at this point, which is crazy to say. Zegras is a guy who knows when to keep it light, how to keep it light, and you're mixing him up with goofballs like Nikita Grabenkin, Matvey Michkov. Believe it or not, as serious as he looks all the time, he's a goofball. So
you follow him on Instagram, absolutely. You know this.
Oh yeah. It's going to be, that's a tone to set positivity moving forward. To your point, Rob, that positivity can set some of these guys, can really take their development to the next level. But Ersson's getting to the point where he's starting to enter his prime, and what he is kind of going to be what he's going to be. And I think it's that way too with Vladar. Vladar's been around. So if these guys can set up a personal competition with each other and keep going, I think that's where this team's going to really take that next step forward, is that friendly competition between Vladar, who's here for 2 years, and Ersson, who really has to prove, one, that he can, maintain any kind of consistency. Two, that consistency can lead into his next contract, whether it be with the Flyers or whoever else decides to sign him in the offseason, which I believe he's an RFA at the end of the year, so the Flyers will still have his rights. So all of this, taking that next step, can really help the Flyers move forward into next season, especially for Sam Ersson.
I would say that for the goaltending wise, for the Flyers right now, I think that Ersson should have a better season this year than he did last year. And the reason why I believe that is because, unlike last year, where he had to take a bulk of the games and he had 2 rookies pretty much backing him up the entire time, which makes it a little bit more challenging as you go down the season. He's now going to have someone he can work in a tandem with again. He hasn't really had that since Hart. So I would say you probably have a better season from Ersson this year because of that reason, because he won't feel like all the pressure is going to be on him. And we've said it before many times, Ersson is a good tandem goaltender. Can he be more of a starter? Sure, but it's better that he works in a tandem than being the strict solo starter at the end of the day. And I think with Vladar, who has he's a vet, he knows what he's doing, you could relieve some of that pressure off of him. So I would suspect you'd see a little bit better of a season from Ersson. Vladar, I would say you're going to get you'll probably get a season from him that you normally get at the end of the day. I would be surprised if he has a massive dip or if he has a big spike. You're probably just going to get a solid season out of him, most likely, at the end of the day.
What are the Eagles playing Thursday night as well?
Got
this week? Benny chimes in, go an interesting night, Birds and the Flyers on Thursday. I'm calling it now. there will be at least 2 scraps on Thursday night.
And potentially the Phillies too. They have to win Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, John Malmus chiming in. As I've been saying the entire offseason, it will come down to who's between the pipes and how they play. Stealing a few games or costing us a few games. Yeah, that makes all the difference, right? And let's not skim over. A lot of people want to point towards Vladar's, sub 900 career save percentage, but just 2 seasons ago on a decent Calgary team, not a barn burner by any stretch of the means, he put up what I believe a 9.13. So there's capabilities there to really support Ariston, to Maddie's point, to where both can lift each other. It's just, and I've been saying it all off season, boys, the play at the blue line needs to be there to support the goaltenders, or else they're going to be hung out to dry.
Right.
I mean, to your point, and I've said it over the 10-year span of the show, your goalie's only as good as your defense in front. We've seen it with Ilya Bryzgalov in Arizona. They had a good defense. He had a good tenure there. Anywhere else, he was average at best. How many times have we seen subpar goaltenders win a Stanley Cup? Just recently, look at Aiden Hill.
Yeah.
I
always
also
good as the defense in front.
Right. And then also on top of it too, Vladar will most likely not be taking the bulk of the games. It'll still be Urson at the end of the day. So you would get more of an opportunity for Vladar to shine and show his abilities. If everything works out with that, it's like, okay, yeah, Vladar's going to be the backup and Urson's going to be the starter. And it'll be a little bit more solidified because it'll be a stronger tandem than it was last year. So, and Benny's saying not to say his sub 900 is good, but save percentages overall is down. And that is true. Goal scoring has been up these last few seasons. So, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing because the goal scoring has been something that the NHL has been desperately wanting back into the game. So, but again, I think Vladar having the ability that he has, I think that if he's the backup to Urson being the starter, taking more games than the average backup, I think Vladar will be fine. I don't think that it'll be too much to ask of him. And I think Urson will still take the higher share of the games.
Right. And it's going to be needed too, because if memory serves me correctly, I'm going to look it up. I believe the Flyers have 14 back-to-back scenarios this year. So that's easily 14 games where Vladar will be needed.
Right.
Yep. It's something like that. It's like anywhere between 13 to 15. I think you're spot on with 14, though. But, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I think they're going to get even share unless one of them gets really, really hot. Just because, I mean, one of them has to get hot, right? It's a tough situation. And I do think I figured you were probably spot on. And the difference between Vladar and Ariston isn't really going to be much. I think, Maddie, you had a great point. Ariston's at his best when he has somebody to compete with. And I think with Vladar and net, I think they're going to compete with each other. I think they're going to get each other to playing a higher level than what they were both at last year. And I think because of that, to John's point in his comment, Vladar and Ariston are going to be able to steal a couple games because of that. And to the other side, I mean, you could be Igor Shesterkin or Andrei Vasilevsky, and you're going to have games where your just bounces aren't going to go your way, and it's just going to cost you. So, you got to just make sure you take advantage of the highs and just ride the lows out until, that wave starts to build back up again.
Right. So, I mean, I would say that the goaltending wise, don't need to jump off the deep end. Is it gonna, Urson having a strong season and Vladar having a solid season, I think that would actually help. But yes, but what you were saying, Rob, is very important. If the blue line does not hold, doesn't matter how good Vladar or Urson are playing on a given night, unless they can't post a shutout every night. You have to have that strong play on the defensive side of the puck.
Agree.
Yeah, it's paramount. It's paramount. You can't leave the boys out to dry. And I mean, you also have to have a strong penalty kill, right? And I like the prospects of this penalty kill, right? With Dvorak serving as a good key role there. Noah Cates can play well on the PK. Sean Couturier, of course. You probably get TK with minutes there. That allows you for some shorty potentiality as well. Actually, looking specifically at their projected PK, Cates, Konechny, York, if once he's healthy, and Sanheim. They have Forrester, and I question that, but that is at least what Daily Faceoff has. But ultimately, special teams is a big determining factor. I think it'll be a big determining factor for this Thursday against Florida, right? Getting back to the power play. We saw Verhege put one up tonight on the score sheet, a power play goal for Florida Panthers. So there's still some firepower there. If we can win the special teams battle, I say the Flyers do have a legitimate shot of taking game one on the road. And if not, they can maybe take it at home the following week.
Yeah,
that's true.
Get
2
that power
games.
kill going too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Prism saying the thing to me is the goalies are perfect if you don't care about making the playoffs and just want to develop players with no expectations. If you're trying to compete, then there's been worse pairs.
And I agree with that. There have been worse pairs.
There have been. But again, I don't think necessarily, I'm not saying that the Flyers aren't trying to make the playoffs, but I think there's a realistic expectation. I don't think anyone is going to say that this team is a shoe in on that wild card race. I don't think anyone would say that. So, and even if they were in a much more solidified position, I still think you would have a real you'd still be wondering, okay, is this team still going to make the playoffs? Because the wild card race in the East isn't very easy. I mean, with the resurgence of some of the teams in the Atlantic Division, I mean, it's getting a lot tighter to get those last 2 wild card spots nowadays.
Yep. But I'll say this though, I said this in the offseason too. For me, the expectation has to be bubble. You have to be in the bubble. Whether or not you fall short, to Matty, your point, man, I think it's a pretty good point. The Atlantic has teams that are starting to find their way out of their rebuilds. Metro Division, as always, is going to be tough as nails. So if you can find your way to be a bubble team and find a way to finish within 10 points of a playoff spot, to me, I think that's a successful year. And that's something to build off of going into the next year.
Right. And it's a big factor for these young guys getting better, being in a competitive division, right? Playing, having to play, the highest of highs of hockey and learning from your mistakes in those situations and building and learning and moving on from them. So it all starts Thursday. It's finally October. I've been saying, is it October yet? Since like July, and we're finally here. So I gave mine earlier. I want to hear what you boys have to think. What are your predictions for Thursday night? I will start with Matthew.
You know what? 4-2. 4-2. What the hell? 4-2 Flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're no homers. No homer.
Yeah, no bias here.
I mean, lighting. If you're going to get to Bob, you get to him early, right in the season. Right.
Yeah.
And defensively speaking, too. I mean, are there legit question marks on the Panthers defense to be exposed in a 4-2 showing that could be true, Brian?
Yeah. I mean, look at the game tonight. You saw Chicago have a ton of scoring chances. I mean, they didn't get enough shots off, but the ones that they did, they had some really good scoring opportunities. So they're going to give them up. It's just figuring out that way to. It's just finding a way to get it past Bob. That's going to be that's the hardest part. You have Ekblad, you have Seth Jones, Mikola. You got a bunch of guys on that are tough as nails on that Florida defensive core, but they're going to give up opportunities. So Flyers have a bit more speed this year than they had last year, and I think that's going to pay some dividends against the defense of the Florida Panthers. So it's just finding ways to get Bob out of position, maybe even take away his eyes. I think it's going to be a little bit of a closer game. I think it's going to be, I'm with Benny, but I don't think it's going to go to overtime. I think it's going to be a 4-3 regulation loss for the Flyers, but I think it's going to say a lot about where this team is. And, you get to get back at the Florida Panthers very quickly in this early season. So you got Florida 2 out of 3 of the first games. So let's go. And to answer Joe's question, in my opinion, I think there's at least 5. He asked how many 20 goal. Sorry, how many 20 goal scorers do you think they have this year? At least 5.
Which 5?
So I think you got Tipper, Konechny, and then you have Zegras. I think Nikita Grabenkin, if he can get the time, he'll be a 20 goal scorer. You have Trevor Zegras, and you have Tyson Forster. So I would say about 6.
Forster's the lock. It being that he's starting the season on time. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. TK, Zegras, that's a stretch, but if we can have that upside type season, that'll be a key component of it.
Michkov, that's 7.
Yeah,
sorry, I don't know how I forgot him.
That took the words right out of my mouth immediately when I heard 20 goal scorer. I'll put it to you this way: potentiality 30 goal scorer for Michkov. The way he's looking in this training camp. Maddie, who do you think it makes? You agree with that list? Disagree?
I think that's pretty solid. I think that's a good solid list right there of the potential 20 goal scorers on the team.
I mean, Brink is a nominee for that as well as he improves his goal scoring prowess on this level, coming from collegiate hockey where he really lit the lamp a lot. So very potential. If it's Owen Tippett, I'll be so happy because that makes the Drew deal finally worthwhile. You know what I mean? That we stuck with Tippett, we didn't dish him off, and he became a star here in Philadelphia. It's not something you see here usually. Having the patience with players, go figure. Oh, what did he say? He said Zegras twice.
I apparently said Zegras twice, which
I was counting too. I was trying to sweep it under the rug.
Maybe it was 40. Maybe he's getting 40. He'll be a double 20 goal scorer.
Yeah.
So you never know, especially playing if he winds up playing with Michkov. You never know.
If he's 20-40, I'd freaking be jumping off the roof.
Mm-hmm. That's what he was in Anaheim, basically.
Had to be hitting the roof, but yeah, it's always an exciting time, and guys, I mean, as we enter in the Rick Tocchet era, I mean, there is, hey, what's up, Don? Yeah, I feel you. I feel you, brother.
I feel that
as well.
Yeah, I think everybody on this screen right now feels the same way you do, brother.
Well, not me, but that's only because I'm really not watching.
Lucky you.
But it's 2-1. I mean, they're still in it to win it, right? The Tigers, I assume he's speaking of.
Yes.
Yeah. Tippett averages 20-plus goals a year in Philly. Yeah. And I mean, he can, this is a floor I think we're talking about here because, we see a guy that we rooted for hardcore and Flyers get accused of the nostalgia act, maybe a little nepotism, but there's something exciting in the air, right? And I was old enough to really, I saw Rick Tocchet come into the league and become a player, and if you watch this team and you're a fan of this team, it's a really exciting time to have your butts in the seats. I expect Xfinity Mobile Arena, yay. That it'll be packed eventually when they come home, and I believe that is the following Thursday. They're on the road in Florida and then Carolina, and then home the next Thursday at home is their opener.
I believe so. I think you're spot on yet again.
Hey, I didn't burn brain cells after all. All right, wait a minute, where are we going? All right, yeah. Oh no, I'm not. Thursday, Saturday, Hurricanes, and then it's Monday is the home opener, October 13th. So that'll be cool. We'll be here to talk about that and recapping the first 3 games of the season. Eventually, hopefully, we get some live reaction shows because that's where we really have a lot of fun here at Flyers Talk A2D. But we're always here for you every week. Tuesday, 9:00. Don. I haven't been on here consistently. Do you all think this is a playoff team? Let's end on that note. Maddie, is this a playoff team?
No. Missing in they're a bubble team, but they're not in.
Brian?
I'm in the same boat. I think they're a bubble team. I think they're a couple points shy, but I think they're on the outside looking in. But they are much improved from last year.
It's really going to key upon how long York's out, right, and how this defense plays off. But if they can get off to a good start, they can win. What did you say, Brian? 2 out of the first, or get 2 points in the first 5, or 2 wins in the first 5.
2 wins in the first 5.
If they get 2 wins in the first 5, I think that's a good enough start where you're not putting yourself in a hole. If they get down, like if they're like 0-5, 0-6, that's going to be tough to come back from. It's all about having a good start and then playing solid hockey once the calendar turns to January, right, and moving towards that playoff push. So I'm going to stick with my guns. I said this team can qualify for the second wild card. I say they do. I think they get a lot of good forward play, keeping them in games, and this defense will get healthy, will round into form, as well as the goaltending. Joseph Horakowski, first time in a while, we don't start the year on a long West Coast trip. Yeah, that is true. It is a gauntlet, but it's not a long West Coast trip. That is for certain. But it's an exciting time, guys. Definitely, it's glad to be back. What team will they be battling?
I think there's a handful of teams, but not really for me specifically to narrow a team down. It's tough because a lot of teams are going to be improved.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be more of a. I don't think it would be a team. I think it'll be teams that they will have to be battling on the race.
Right. Blue Jackets, they impressed. They surprised a lot of people last year. They'll be in the mix. I think that'll be who they'll be contending with chiefly in the Metro. You always got your Detroit Red Wings, Ottawa Senators, who, potentially are always that perennial fringe team, right? Or maybe some of these teams, maybe even the Florida Panthers that get off to a rough start, minus some of their superstars and have played a lot of hockey over the past couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds, see if Washington can stay up there, see what the Rangers have in Mike Sullivan's first year. There's a lot of question marks, and there's a lot of excitement, boys. Like I said, it's always glad to be a part of the fam here at A2D, catching us Tuesdays, 9 p.m. You can catch Wednesday night, A2D Wednesday nights. I believe they kick off at 9-10 o'clock as well, Wednesday nights. All throughout the week, we have shows coming up for you. Final Whistle on Friday. We got help me out, boys. There's so many shows on this network. Eagles Talk on Monday. Film Don't Lie is back. I love that show with Pete Evans and Chuck's breaking it down league wide. That show helps me out for my NFL DFS rosters so much. being able to put some pictures with some of the games that I don't get to see. So whatever you pick your poison, lazy booking preceded us earlier tonight with the return of Ritz. Was glad to see him back in the house. You talk your wrestling flavor, WWE, AEW. We got everything here that you need at atdradio.com. So for Brian Daly, Matt Tsutsudi, Rob Povia, I hate hosting. Never again, Maddie. Never again. We were brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, Dr. Paul Vidal. He's got 2 locations in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'm going to need some physical therapy from hosting. I'm also going to need some physical therapy from my shoulder and my neck where I got severe arthritis. So I'm going to go see the doc, make them yours, visit them, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Let's go. It's NHL face-off time. Enjoy, fellas. Enjoy, fam.